So we're here to talk about what Nintendo and Pokemon are going to do with all of these videos that generative AI is making with their precious IP. Oh no.
Yeah, we've seen it all now. We've seen Star Wars and Mario, Pikachu and the Titanic, Pikachu and Saving Private Ryan.
We've seen it all.
We haven't reached a point where any Nintendo is like actively taking action against any of these companies, but it feels like the pressure is building towards something explosive.
It's true.
And it's like,
true.
Is this going to happen next week? Is this going to happen in a year? I don't know, but we are getting to that point.
Yeah, it's definitely getting to a spot where things have ballooned to the point where people are using this tool to do all of these things. It's definitely catching Nintendo's attention. Nintendo also made a statement about it.
Yeah, they had to have a statement about it.
We're going to get into that.
Right.
It definitely seems like the pressure is building. This is like the Wild West, though,
of
a situation that none of these companies really have been in before. So there's a lot to kind of wade through, and we want to talk about, how Nintendo's feeling, how they're reacting, what their conversations are on the inside in terms of what they can and potentially will do.
Yeah.
And also kind of what this means for the future, because it just feels like this kind of like runaway train that is almost unstoppable and a bit of a very dramatic shift in terms of how people are able to use and engage with Nintendo's precious IP.
So there is a reason that we're talking about this now, even though we said, that the big dramatic moment has yet to happen, and that is that this new app from OpenAI, who does Chat GPT, this is the latest version of Sora 2. They launched that. They did a big push around that. They brought in a lot of content creators to help push that. One that we saw was iJustine, who is one of the very closely aligned content creators with Nintendo.
Yikes!
Which is interesting. They seemed to be pushing the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, into a lot of the content.
They are,
which is another interesting strategic thing that we're going to talk about. So, it does seem like this technology did take a step forward with the new version of this app, and it just got so much attention. Like late last week, that was like you were just, no matter where you were just seeing these videos everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think as of us still recording it, you still need an invite, so it's not like anybody can do it. But ultimately, this will become a mainstream thing like Chat GPT to let people make these short form AI videos.
Yeah, and it seems like like we were saying, the floodgates have certainly opened, and there's just so much content out there now. We've seen basically Nintendo and Pokemon characters in all sorts of scenarios. Whatever scenario you can dream up, pretty much you can make a very realistic video using Sora 2 to like make that into reality. And then also because of the age that we live in of social media, it's so easy to share all that stuff. It's everywhere, and it spreads like wildfire, and it's just out there. And it's interesting because, Nintendo always tries to control their IP. Their IP has always been their most precious commodity. So having all of these like unofficial videos being made featuring prominently all of their characters and spreading so quickly and so far is definitely a point of concern for them.
There's also this unfortunate fact of the time that we live in where, there's people like us and a lot of people watching this video like, oh no, IP has rights that need to be defended, but there's a lot of people out there who just don't care, and it's like this is just another funny video that they're scrolling through, and they're not really thinking that deeply of like, who made this, what is the origin of this, how does this relate back to the original IP owner. It doesn't matter to them, and I think that's
just entertainment.
And I think that's the scary future that Nintendo sees is our stuff just interchangeable with any other random video that some guy made and posted?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, and from the perspective of the creators of Sora, like an OpenAI or any other AI company that's making a lot of these tools, like from their perspective, they're thinking like, well, we're not really doing anything wrong. We're just giving out a tool for people, for fans, to engage with a brand that they love. This is a way for people to creatively show they love something by making this content. So from their perspective, it's almost like, encouraging people to make fan art.
Right.
Featuring Nintendo characters. That's a thing that exists, right? And I think for them, it's like, well, yeah, this company's IP is within the tools that we built, but it's not a bad thing. We're giving them publicity. We're giving their passionate fans a way to create like fun entertainment things and spread their brand. How is this bad? So for them, it's almost like, well, we don't think we're doing anything wrong here.
The OpenAI strategy is interesting because they seem to be doing this intentionally as a way of courting some of these IP holders to give them the right. So
absolutely.
Yes, let people legitimately make videos using your characters. Kind of similar to what's happening with Roblox now, where they are pursuing. That happened with Like a Dragon, where like Sega actually gave them some degree of rights of people can make that content using this IP in a legitimate way.
Yeah.
I think that's what OpenAI wants. So they're just like, hey, here are the floodgates. Look at what's possible.
Yeah.
And it's like an ask for forgiveness later type of situation, which not every company do. Some companies get scared about the repercussions.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to look at some of the quotes from the company about how they're handling this.
Yeah.
The head of media partnerships, who would be negotiating some of these brand deals at AI, this is what they had to say. People are eager to engage with their family and friends through their own imaginations, as well as stories, characters, and worlds they love. And we see new opportunities for creators to deepen their connection with fans. We'll work with rights holders to block characters from Sora at their request and respond to takedown requests.
Yeah, so definitely is a very much like ask for forgiveness later.
If you got a problem with
situation.
it, tell us about it. But I'm sure that is just like an endless red tape revolving door that sucks.
Yeah, totally. And the tools, like we were saying, the tool has become quite powerful. And this is the second version of Sora that OpenAI has come out with. And you can see how like legit it looks, and like the stuff that they're making with these characters look really real. Like it looks like something that could have come out of
and again, if you just
Pokemon on Nintendo.
If you just showed this to a random person on the street, how many people could tell the difference?
That's right.
Again,
I think that's the scary part for
Obviously,
the IP holder.
There are a lot of concerning things about this technology, but again, just from that standpoint, like it starts to become somewhat interchangeable from the real thing. Let's go to another quote from this is from Mark Lemley, who's a professor at Stanford Law School. He might know a thing or two.
He might.
He says a lot of the videos that people are going to generate of these cartoon characters are going to infringe copyright. OpenAI is opening itself up to quite a lot of copyright lawsuits by doing this.
Well, yes.
So that is the kind of traditional legal view on this stuff. But right now, the legal precedents around AI kind of don't...
It doesn't exist.
Kind of don't exist.
Yeah.
So maybe that emboldens OpenAI to be like, forget it, let it rip. And we'll deal with whatever. Like, yes, you want it taken down? It's a simple 18-step process for every piece of content that you find.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're going to be attracting some people who actually do see value in this. They're like, well, our characters in Fortnite, our characters in Roblox, sure, might as well. This will be a good thing in the long run. And who knows? We don't know whether that'll be a good thing or a bad thing. It probably comes down to how tightly you're managing your IP in the first place.
Right.
There's a lot of places where it's very fast and loose, where it's like, maybe this makes no difference at all. If you're a place like Nintendo or the Pokemon company, this is like life or death stuff.
The other thing that is just always an interesting dichotomy is the speed of which technology moves and the speed of which legality moves. Technology is like,
they don't care. They don't
light
care.
Speed.
Yes.
They don't care. They came up with
care.
something. They came up with a tool. They're going to put it out into the world. They don't care. But the legal side of it, sure, you could cite copyright infringement law, or you could cite whatever.
But this is different.
Legality, but it's going to take a long time for it to catch up to technology.
I listened to a really interesting podcast recently where they were talking to one of the head negotiators of the Screen Actors Guild for like Hollywood actors, TV actors, because they have a very similar situation, and in that world, There's some other interesting things, like there's like an AI actress that they're trying to like
This
push
is like
out
with
there.
real human people, though. That's the difference.
Exactly. And they were like, we've learned that, because, you know, they can feed all this content into their models to train
the models.
And they're like, we actually we looked into the legality, and that's actually not illegal for them to train it. But it's what the actual output is that is potentially where they could get in trouble. But again, right now, like,
there's no precedent.
There is no precedent. So I think that's why, if you think about like, well, what is Nintendo going to do? Like, they may be a bit more cautious in really thinking this out and thinking through the strategy of
how to approach this.
If we're going to do this, and this could potentially become a major legal precedent, it has to work, and we have to win. Yeah. And what is the angle that we can find that we are going to win? It's kind of like with Pal World. It's like they actually somehow surprisingly
did find an angle.
Couldn't take action on the most obvious thing, which was just the designs of those characters. They had to find a backdoor angle, and they did. Nintendo's lawyers are very good. I think they can probably find something, but they're going to be incredibly careful about what is the entry point to that, because they know that this is going to dictate how the rest of this whole back and forth goes, potentially for years.
Yeah, and we're talking a lot about OpenAI and Sora too, but this is not the only AI company that does this.
There's so many.
There's Midjourney, there's Character.ai, there's an endless list of these companies. So you're basically playing this game of whack-a-mole almost. Not only are you trying to control maybe how each of these AI companies are using your IP, but also, again, the output is so fast. Like, how can you take down every video that someone has made using these tools?
Take the thought process that they're going through with Sora, multiply it by
X20.
20. And then there's other stuff around the world where the guidelines are different. And once a video is posted, like, it doesn't care.
Unposted.
Going viral doesn't care, like, what country it came from, what tool it came from.
And what law you're breaking.
Once something goes out there and goes viral, like, it's hard to stop it.
Exactly.
So that's what has to be tying them into knots right now.
They're very upset by this.
And then there was this very interesting thing that happened over the weekend where there was some misinformation that did get corrected. That Nintendo actually had to tweet on their investor relations Twitter. And this is the translation. Obviously, it was posted in Japanese. There are no facts indicating that our company is making any approaches to the Japanese government regarding generative AI. Regardless of whether generative AI is used, our company's policy is to take appropriate action against anything we determine to be infringing on our intellectual property. So the misinformation was that Nintendo was actually speaking with the Japanese government about like, well, what can we do?
Stop this!
What can we do about this? And that actually came from somebody in the Japanese government.
Oops.
And they have since said like, oh, that's not what happened. So I don't know the full
misinformation.
I don't follow Japanese politics. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but this is a where there's smoke, there's fire situation.
You can smell the panic.
that may not have been what happened, but there may be something close to that resulted in them tweeting this out over the weekend.
They usually don't respond to these kinds of things because they're, like you were saying, they're going to be very careful about how they approach this from a legal standpoint. They need to not lose this. There's so much uncertainty because there is no precedent. So them even making any sort of statement, even if they're cloaking it as let's stop the misinformation as a reason to why they're talking about it, is still telling that there's something going on. They're definitely researching, looking into options on how to stop this because they're very, concerned about this.
So if you're Nintendo, what are your different pathways to approaching this? Because I see a couple different things they could do.
Yeah.
There's the scenario where they go it themselves with their lawyers, and they try and handle that themselves. I think there's we need to align ourselves with the ESA, because this is an industry-wide thing. All of us in video games
strength in numbers
who are part of this are concerned about the use of our IP in a way that we don't like. Let's not make it us, let's make it the video game industry tackling all of this.
And then you can kind of slough off the responsibility onto the ESA as well to handle some of that negotiation and conversation for
Exactly.
you.
I mean, that's what they're there to do.
That's right.
But I think the question is like, do they trust the ESA to
like do a good job
to manage something on that critically important?
That nuanced level?
I don't know, actually, is my answer to that.
And the ESA, like, they do a lot of stuff related to, like, government and stuff like that. But like we were saying before, this stuff is moving so fast that there is no, like, government precedents or, like, policy around it. So they're going to be starting with, like, ground zero, where they're trying to build the policy first and then determine whether or not OpenAI is, or any other AI company is breaking that policy.
Right.
So that just might be moving a bit too slow for Nintendo's liking.
Yeah.
So they may be like, well, you're going too slow. We're doing it ourselves.
And then the third mystery, again, you have to think about this now. Again, that was proven to not be something that happened.
Yeah.
But you wonder, is there some path where, like, could
the government step in?
What could the Japanese government do?
Yeah.
Again, if there's all the, IP is taken very seriously in Japan. We work with Nintendo. We've worked with a lot of Japanese companies.
Yeah.
Like, they do often have really strict guidelines, like way stricter than other places.
US,
So it's like, is there something that the Japanese government could do?
If the IP
I don't know.
is created out of Japan, is there like another path that they could take?
Right. It's
that like the government steps in and helps to block
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as like a big, like, what if? Because again, I do believe, again, that was proven. That is not what happened.
Yeah.
But where there's smoke, there is fire.
That's right.
So I think that some sort of a conversation
maybe happening
in that realm happened or is happening.
Right. The other thing with Nintendo, not only are they famously, protective of their IP, but their number one thing that when we were working there that was communicated to us that I found a bit fascinating when I first started to understand how important this particular aspect is to them, is this idea of unofficial stuff being confused with official stuff. Like, that was their biggest thing.
Right.
It wasn't really even like, people are using our IP and, we don't like that. Yes, of course. But mainly it was the idea that people are using our IP. They're making stuff that's so good and so legit looking that it can be confused for official stuff. And that is where we are very much black and white, like, this absolutely cannot happen. We have to block this by all means. And the worry here is that, like, this tool is so good that, like we were saying, it's so hard to tell whether or not these things can be official or not.
Yeah, if you're savvy, obviously that's not something that they would do.
It has a little thing, like a little marker.
But again, a lot of
it,
people are not going to know and they're not going to care.
Yeah, exactly. We were saying that OpenAI did detail this opt-out process. It's really interesting because the podcast you were referring to, they were talking about, like, real people, like actors and actresses and stuff.
Right.
They have an opt-in process for humans. But for fictional characters, for fictional IP, they have the opposite process, which is an opt-out process.
The app has a feature where you can actually, like, upload photos of your face.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing this, obviously. But that's how you like, anybody can do that to train the eye. It's like, oh, I want to put myself in this crazy video. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, like, for people, you have to opt in, but for other things, you need to opt out. And again, we don't know what that process looks like. Is it just a red tape nightmare? Is it something that, like, do you need to do it literally video by video where there may be, like, tens of thousands of video featuring a Pikachu or a Mario or a whatever that you have to deal with? Like, is this actually a reasonable way for IP holders to deal with this, or is it just another, like, hand wave of, like, well, we did it. We have a way out.
I know.
It's fine. We can't be sued.
It feels very hand wavy to me, but they have gone out of their way to say.
I'm sure they've been researching that extensively over the weekend.
Exactly.
Like, what exactly do we have to do to get out of this?
Yeah, they're like, we respect these takedowns. You can submit it through our, like, copyright disputes form, which is like a form that goes into the trash or something. Yeah, so it's very, like, interesting how I feel like what OpenAI is trying to do is just like, we have an official process, but it's going to take, like, forever for you to get through it.
So why don't you just say yes?
Or just don't do anything and let the people do what they want with your stuff.
So there was one other point that was made on that podcast that I thought was interesting, where they were saying they saw some similarities between this and the early days of YouTube.
Yeah.
Where copyrighted material would get uploaded to YouTube, and it became this big battle between YouTube and I think it was a lot of the cases it was like movie studios and TV channels, and they were trying to get that stuff down. But then they found like, oh wait, there are actually benefits of this, of like this is a place that people want to watch this content, and now you see stuff like big clips from late night shows always going up, and like sports have like, oh here's the recap of the football game, why don't you watch that? And like a lot of people choose to watch that instead. So I think that they were pointing out of like, don't just assume that the IP holders are going to have a slam dunk win, because the way that people consume content changes fast. The way that, especially these days, like some of these IP holders are desperate to attain some sort of relevance. Like, again, I don't think for every IP holder this is an immediate slam dunk.
No,
we have to shut this down the same way that Nintendo
some people
and
are
Pokemon
probably like,
feel.
We like this
we're thinking about
because.
This.
Yeah, some people might be like, our IP is struggling right now. And we like that there is so much content and conversation now happening around our IP. Like we like this. So yeah, it's going to be different, I think, depending on what kind of IP you have and how you're controlling it and managing it. And yeah, to your point about like, the way people consume content, like that is just like, again, another sense of the Wild West where we have so many options now on how we're consuming this content. People are not discerning about how they get entertained, and if this is another way that they're getting entertained, a lot of people just don't care. And a lot of brands, will realize this and be like, well, if that's the way that people are going to be engaging with our brand from now on, and that's the only way for us to maintain relevancy, then we're just going to have to give into it.
Especially now where very clearly we've seen like a way to make your stock price go up is to say, oh, we're super in on AI. It's like, is this going to become some new way to signal to like, oh, the stock better go up. Look, we're handing over our IP to the AI. The number better go up. It's like, I don't know. I think this is going to be a fascinating story to follow for the next foreseeable future.
And the thing is, too, it's like one of those things where you don't know 10 years from now what this is going to do to your brand. There's no roadmap for this. Yeah. So like,
I thought you said what's going to do to your brain.
And brain.
And your brain.
And brain. Yes, brain and brand.
Brain is going to be delicious mush.
It's going to be AI mush. You're gonna, who knows? Yeah, I mean, we're well on our way to that, I'm sure. It's just like this AI slop. But yeah, I think, like you don't know. Like the people that just give it up to AI and say like, well, for now, this is great for us. We're getting all this attention. Awesome. But like in 10 years, does it completely like dilute your brand and now you're just like completely a joke or something? And like no one can take you seriously or even know when it was really you and when it's not. Like you don't know what's going to happen. Like no one has done this yet. So it's so much of a wait and see scenario, and Nintendo does not like that at all. They're a very controlling company. They're very like rigid, and they really want to. I mean, they're the company that thinks that they can control the internet. That they could do things like let's have a button that we can click to stop people from streaming. Like that's the kind of company Nintendo is, and so this is like so opposite of their sort of way of looking at the world that they just must be like completely, just tied up in knots over this. And besides kind of, like you said, having their legal team like really wade through the strategy of how to handle this and going through OpenAI's like process of opting out and maybe sending a cease and desist or something like that, like there's really not much they can do in the immediate now. So I'm sure that's killing them because they would just love to just blanket, make it go away. But they're unfortunately not able to do that. It's probably going to be a slower
process because it needs to work for them.
It does.
They need to win this.
Yes.
Get the popcorn.
Gotta watch what happens. It might take a little while. Maybe they'll come out later this week with some sort of big update, but who knows? Anyhow, what do you think? No judgment, but do you like this? Do you want to? I mean, I laughed. I gotta say that even though I'm like, ew, don't do this with AI, like I watch those Pikachu videos.
You're speed running your brain turning to mush.
I watched the Mario Star Wars and I was like, it's actually pretty good. It's pretty funny, you know? So in terms of like being entertaining, I see it. I get it. Like it is entertaining. For sure, people are very creative and the internet is like a very creative place. So I get that part of it. But at the same time, I'm just like, uh-oh. Like this is dangerous. We're walking into some dangerous territory here. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments on this very interesting scenario that Nintendo and the Pokemon Company has found themselves in. And I guess we're all just gonna watch and see what happens. All right, this is not an AI generated video, by the way.
No,
this
we're
is real people. Okay, we're gonna see you later. Bye.
Bye.